What's up guys, my name is Stealth and welcome back to another Marvel Spider-Man 2 related video. And for today's video, I thought I would go over my thoughts on how Insomniac might make the story for the game much more darker compared to their previous two Spider-Man games, such as character deaths or scenes in general that may leave the player either shocked or stunned. But before we dive into today's topic, if you guys enjoyed today's video, then be sure to scroll down and hit that like button. Also, if you're new to my channel and you want to stay up to date with everything relating to Marvel Spider-Man 2, well then I got you covered. I'll be doing more discussion videos such as this, reacting to all the upcoming trailers and gameplay we get for the game, doing a let's play and review, and so much more. If that sounds good to you, then hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so that way you won't miss any new videos. But with all that out of the way, let's get into the video. Alright, so if you haven't been keeping up with the news for the game, a couple of months ago, Bill Roseman, who is the vice president and head of creative at Marvel Games, went on to the This Week in Marvel podcast, where he went over some details for both Marvel's Spider-Man 2 and Marvel's Wolverine. And at the end of the time that he had on the podcast, he goes on to state that the game will have a much darker tone compared to Insomniac's previous two Spider-Man games, and he also compares it to Star Wars by saying that it is the Empire Strikes Back of the Marvel Spider-Man franchise.
And I would say, if the first Spider-Man game was Star Wars, Spider-Man 2 is kind of our Empire.
Ooh.
It gets a little darker.
And after that clip of him saying that started being shared across social media, fans have been theorizing and speculating on what Insomniac will do for the game's main narrative to make it more darker than its predecessors. And I thought that I would throw my hat in the ring and go over my thoughts on what I think might happen within the story to make it more darker than the previous two Spider-Man games. So without further ado, let's get started. So to kind of get a starting point on what I think Insomniac will do to make the game much more darker than the previous games, I went back to Spider-Man PS4 and Miles Morales and took a look at some of the dark moments that those games had within their main story. Starting with Spider-Man PS4, where we had the City Hall bombing, which led to countless civilians either being killed or injured, with one of those being Peter, who used himself as a shield to protect MJ against the blasts. But also, it unfortunately led to Miles' father Jefferson Davis being killed during the bombing by being in the crossfire of one of the bombers.
Dad! Dad! Dad, no! Wake up! Wake up! Wake up!
Then the next dark moment occurs during the mission back to school, where Peter heads to a Halloween party at ESU to track down Dr. Isaac Delaney to learn more information about Devil's Breath. But unfortunately, Martin Lee gets to him first and corrupts Dr. Delaney to make him tell him what he needs to know. And once he learns about Morgan Michaels, Mr. Negative makes Dr. Delaney kill himself by shooting himself in the head.
Thank you.
No!
And finally, the darkest moment in Spider-Man PS4's main story is Aunt May's death scene, where Peter has to make the hardest decision of his Spider-Man career. Either save Aunt May and let millions die, or save the anti-serum for mass production but lose the only family that he has left alive. And as much as Peter would want to save Aunt May's life, he knows that she would want him to do the right thing and help those around him, as she once told him that when you help someone, you help everyone.
I don't know what to do.
Yes, you do.
Now let's move on to Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales. Now while that game didn't have as many dark moments like in the first game, it still had moments in the game's story that left the player, including myself, very shocked to see. Starting with the death of Finn's brother, Rick Mason. As we learned throughout the main narrative for Miles Morales, Roxxon has just announced their new form reactor, which will be used to provide clean energy throughout Harlem. But the one thing that they are keeping secret is that the energy from the reactor is causing their employees to become sick, with one of those employees being Finn's brother, Rick Mason. So, Finn and Rick decide to sneak into Roxxon to try to shut down the reactor before it causes more people to get sick. But unfortunately, Simon Krieger deploys an energy shield which makes Rick get trapped in with the reactor. Unable to do anything, Finn is forced to watch her brother be killed by a blast of energy from the new form reactor.
I can stop it! I can stop this!
Rick, no!
No! Ben! No, look!
And the other dark moment happens at the end of the game when Miles absorbs all the energy from the new form reactor. And he doesn't have a lot of time to get far away before he triggers a mega venom blast that is more bigger than usual, which can risk all of Harlem being destroyed. So, Finn decides to take Miles as high up as she can by using her underground technology that helps her move really fast. And she asks him to let go of all the energy that is built up in him, but Miles hesitates on doing that as it can kill her if he does. But Finn assures him to do it, and so Miles releases all the energy from the reactor and Finn sacrifices herself to avoid the blast from damaging Harlem and killing the civilians within it.
I can't. It's okay. I can't. Just let go. Let go.
Which brings us to Marvel's Spider-Man 2, which has a big question that has been on a lot of people's minds. How dark will the story be? And so here are some of the things that I think might happen within the main story of the game that make the overall tone of the story more darker than the previous games. The first idea I have is that the symbiote might be detached from Harry, and because of this, Harry may end up dying from the same disease that killed his mother Emily, since the symbiote is no longer attached to him to help him stay alive. And because of this, Norman might blame Spider-Man for being the one responsible for killing his son, who was the only family he had left, like how Aunt May was the only family that Peter had still alive before she died after being exposed to Devil's Breath. And so if this were to happen, Norman will start to take his first steps into his transformation into the Green Goblin, to hunt down and kill Peter, thinking that he is responsible for Harry's death. And the other idea I have is that if Peter gets the black suit sometime during the game's story, over the course of the game you start to see Peter's attitude change and see his more evil side come out as long as the symbiote is bonded to him. And because of this, you start to see him become more aggressive towards MJ and Miles, and making them very hurt and start to not trust him, since they are unaware about the symbiote and what it's doing to Peter. And with this, it can make the overall idea of Peter Parker and Spider-Man's worlds colliding by flipping it on its head, and seeing how it can affect both Peter's and Spider-Man's worlds together, and make their image and reputation from others very bad for both of them. And there you guys have it. Those are my thoughts on how I think Insomniac might make the story for the game much more darker than their previous two Spider-Man games. Now, while it's hard right now to get an idea on how Insomniac will take the story for the game in a more darker direction than their previous two installments, it will be very interesting to see how they will take the overall narrative for the game to the next level, to give players a more engaging and emotional story with very high stakes that are being set up for the game. But now I want to hear from you guys. Scroll down and let me know in the comment section below, how do you think Insomniac will make the story for the game much more darker than their previous two Spider-Man games? I'm very interested to see what you guys have. And if you guys enjoyed today's video, then be sure to scroll down, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so that way you won't miss any new videos and to stay up to date with everything related to Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Also be sure to follow me on Twitter. The link to that is in the description below. My name is Stealth, and I'll see you all next time. Peace out, guys.